Allow me to give you some information that you can use today that will make your life better tomorrow. I absolutely promise. There are three basic forms of power. Power in the world. I'm not talking about hydroelectric and nuclear. Three basic forms of power of one human being over another. What's the most basic form of power? We don't much think in these terms these days. But what's the most basic form of power? No, even more basic than that. We're getting there. And we're getting there. The most basic form of power, and notice we don't think in these terms, is physical strength. That's the most basic form of power. Either I can kick your ass, or I can't. Right? For the first 50,000 years of human history, who was king of the village? Was it the guy who got the most votes? No, it was the guy who what? Kicked the most ass. That was the king of the village. And he stayed king of the village until what happened? Till someone kicked his ass. That was 50,000 years of history, and that's how it worked. The second most basic form of power is money, in theory, while we're here. Now, if I have money and you're stronger than I am, what can I do? I can buy somebody to kick your ass. Or 5 somebodies. Or we can just cut to the chase. I can pay you to go away. We call that welfare. Yeah, we do. So the second most basic form of power is money. But the third most basic form of power, and someone said it, and I always feel guilty saying this in class because it sounds like a teacher saying stay in school, because it is a teacher saying stay in school. The third most basic form of power is knowledge. And of the three, which is the most powerful? It's knowledge, and it's easy to find out why. If you're strong, but you're stupid, what are you pretty soon? A dead strong guy. If you have money, if you're rich, but you're stupid, what are you pretty soon? That's right. 50% of the people who win the lottery are broke within 5 years. Millions of dollars. Millions. Why? Because they're stupid. Saving money is not rocket science. It doesn't require a formula. It just requires thought. 60% of the people who leave the NBA are broke within 5 years. 60%. It gets worse. 78% of the people who retire from the NFL, 78% are broke or in financial distress within 2 years. Stupid. Seriously, after your initial signing bonus, you should never be broke again. Give me 1 million tax-free dollars, I shouldn't ever have to work again. Once upon a time, you could get 10%. You can't anymore. But let's assume the economy bounces back. I got $1 million, I can get 10%. What's the simplest thing to do with it? Put it in the bank. How much money am I going to make a year? $100,000. Can I eke out an existence on $100,000? Yes, I can scrape by. And at the end of the year, how much money do I have in the bank? $1 million freaking dollars. To lose that much money and ever be poor again is stupid. I'm here to beg you, do not be stupid. And let me tell you how. What you need is this. I'm not even telling you that this and this are the most important things to have. That's a moral judgment, and that's up to you. But I can tell you how to get them. It's this. Don't worry about this until you have this, because you won't hang on to this anyway. But the way to get to this is here. What you need is information. And let me tell you how to get it. If you remember nothing else, remember this. Write it down. Do this. Write down every single penny you spend every day. 5 times a day. There is no such category as miscellaneous. Write it down. And write down every single penny you make. Write it down. Now, there are a million systems for that. You can go online, there's apps, there are programs. It doesn't matter. I'm not telling you use a particular system. What I'm telling you is get one, or make up one, or use your own. I started writing it down when I was, I think, a freshman in college. I went back and I pulled out, and this is actually kind of fun when you do this for a number of years. This is my January 1975 books. That was before most of your parents were born. I understand that. So there's dinosaur expenses and other things here. But I was looking down. In January of 1975, I made $420.55 that month. Isn't that astounding? I think I was in grad school. I spent $285. That was tuition, car, food, rent. Can you imagine? I mean, I can't even go to dinner for $285 anymore. Seriously, I can't. But it's fun to look back. I made $420. I spent $285. I was looking later year. Here's from January of 1989. I'm now making a whopping $5,000 a month. I noticed I spent just under $3,000 a month. Now, my system of writing it down has changed over the years. It's gotten more elaborate, it's gotten more detailed. I've done other things with it. But the important part is develop a system that you will use. This is all about the thing that most people lack. It's why I teach some classes in distance education. They're computer classes. The failure rate is 50%. By the way, that's a national failure rate. The national failure rate on online classes is 50%. Why do you think that is? Is it because the classes are harder? Not really. I mean, they're a little bit, it depends on how you suck up information. But why do you think most people fail? Discipline, self-discipline. Sitting in front of the computer, when you tell yourself to sit in front of the computer as opposed to someone tells you you need to be in class at this particular time and you have to show up. Most people are bereft of self-discipline. This is all about self-discipline. Write it down. You buy a cup of coffee for $3.50, go home and write it down. I'm not kidding. Write down every penny that you spend and every penny that you make. And at the end of the month, add up what you've spent and add up what you've made and just look at it. And look at how you spent your money. Now, one thing I didn't say is, I didn't tell you what I spent it on. I noticed, I couldn't figure out what it was. It says it was $1.50 fish supplies. What the hell was that? Oh yeah, we owned a fish tank. Fish supplies, $1.50. Now, I will tell you in my old age, I've gotten off of cents. I now round. God forgive me, I round. I do. But that aside, that's the only concession you make. Write it down. This is not, and it's why most people won't do this, this is not about making a good, bad judgment on how you spent the money. This is not about moral value. This is not you looking and going, oh, I spent $4.50 on a cup of coffee, I'm a bad person. This isn't that. Just write it down. Just write it down. At the end of the month, Look where you spent your money. Look what you spent. Look what you made. Flip the page. Go to the next month. And the month after that, go to the next month. And the month after that, go to the next month. And at the end of the year, look at what you made and look at what you spent. If you're happy, don't change anything. If you're not happy, you now have information. You can now do something about your own finances. There is a ton of false news out there. We all know it. But this news, this is real because you wrote it down. You know for a fact this is true. And the sooner you start running your life like a business, the better off you will be. If you are happy with what you see on the page, don't change anything. If you're not, make changes where you want to make them. And I'm not telling you what your priorities could be. Buy a house, buy a car, buy clothes, buy stereo, buy headphones. It's up to you. But you can't if you don't have this information. Now, you may also find some interesting bits of information. What will you learn by doing these things? Well, you might learn from personal experience that the average American, most Americans, spend more money on taxes than they do food and clothing combined. The average American, especially in California, spends more money on taxes than food and clothing combined. What's the number one expense in life for most people? Number one. It's number two. What's the number one? Housing. It's where you live. That, for most people, that's number one. Number two, taxes. I spend 51% of my income in taxes. 51%. How do I know this? Because I freaking bother to track it. The government's very clever. They take it before you get it. Have you noticed? They take it before you get it. And then at the end of the year, you go, oh, goody, look, they're sending me money. It's your money that they've been hanging on to. And they don't pay you interest. They will charge you interest, but they will not pay you interest. 51%. 51%. You look at 30 in Fed. You look at 10 or 11 in state. You look at 9, 10, or 11 every time you buy something, never mind gasoline taxes, and $1,000 a month just in property taxes. 51%. Now, why is this important to me? If I need $50,000 a year to live, how much do I have to make? 100 grand. People go, wow, you make 100,000? No. Well, yeah, but no. No. You need this information. You need this information. The other incredibly bright thing, money in the bank. Let me tell you, don't wait to do this until you have money, because then it's too late. Notice, I was doing this when I was poor. You want to make mistakes and practice when you're poor. Trust me, the consequences are infinitely less. You're making $400 a month. Why bother to track it? So that when I'm making $10,000 a month, I know how to track it. That's when to practice. Practice when you have no money at all. And for heaven's sakes, put some money in the bank. That's about the second best piece of advice you could possibly have. Did you know that 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck? 78%! Did you know that 90% of Americans, when they were asked, if you had to come up with $1,000 for an emergency, could you do it? No, I'd have to borrow it. Are you kidding me? $4.50 for a cup of coffee and you put it on a credit card. Do you know what interest rates are on credit cards? They're between 18 and 22%. You just bought a $9 cup of coffee. Are you out of your mind? But see, these things you don't know unless you write it down. Do yourself a favor. Start today. Write down everything you spend. Write down everything you make. No value judgments. No, I should have. No, I shouldn't. I sort of. Just write it down. Just get in the habit of writing it down. It'll be the single best thing you could ever do for yourself in the world of finance and personal success. I promise. Thanks.
Thanks for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you like what you saw, make sure to subscribe. You could also see the rest of the speeches on the channel. Enjoy.